The material we will use in this course is from our sci-fi series Something for Nothing, the pilot of which is now uploaded to YouTube. You can watch it by clicking the suggested link. There is a numerous amount of reasons why you want to know different visual effects software, but the main reason is that you will find yourself doing your job faster as you will use the right tool for the corresponding task. I always wanted to do some basic training, but unfortunately on FX PhD there's too much of that basic training. So instead of basic training, you can find some really hardcore training on FX PhD by typing my name into it. My name is Kirill Pleshakov. I'm producer, visual effects supervisor, and this is one of the reasons I've started my YouTube channel. As YouTube you can pollute with whatever you want, even with things that are already all over it. Well, anyways, my tutorials and courses are more for people who already know something in visual effects, so it is much easier to comprehend me if you know some other visual effects software like Nuke, Blender, Fusion. Knowledge of Photoshop could make everything clear here, for example. You will understand me faster. And if you are a complete rookie, then it will be tough wherever you go. Now you want to understand how this awesome application works. Just look at it. It's so user-friendly. Every tab is being highlighted as I click on it. This is the preview tab, where you play back things when you have something to play back. It's the effects tab. You have effects in it. By the way, if you have collapsed tabs, there we go, like that, I suggest you to immediately change them so you can see everything to unstacked panels group, and then you can rearrange them here. Let's try doing this again. You can put the libraries into preview tab. You don't need them. The tracker should always be here. And content aware fill, probably you don't need it. If you don't need some things, you can close them. Info panel we will need, definitely. So I don't need libraries. Well, align preview, I guess I will put them into the info tab here, like that, leaving the info tab open, and obviously need the preview tab, and the effects tab contains all the effects we will be using, you know. So here's the composition window. This is like the main window where you will see your composition on which you will work. And to create new composition, you want first import something to work with into the project tab. This is where your media is being contained. You can import almost any media into After Effects. Well, not every single one, but you can import like footage, images like textures, and music. So everything the compositor will need. I will now import the footage from the in folder. So to do this, I will double click on its empty space. I have a smart folder structure. I developed it by copying the folder structures of the studios I've worked in, suitable for working in a team of 5 to 25 people. The source footage is inside of in folder. So go inside of it and import it. Here it is, the XRs files. So if you are supporting me on Patreon, you always get all the project files for all the videos I've done and for all the videos I will do. This course project files definitely should be already on Patreon. So thank you so much for your support. Liam K. Vikas Sharma. Sorry for pronouncing your names incorrectly, guys. Really sorry. Trunken Justin. Andy Lee, Yoshiro Sano, and TV. For those of you who doesn't need any tracking and masking introduction for After Effects, the class 3 and class 4 of this exact course will be really tough, featuring the keying and compositing of the overblown green screen with a bunch of smoke flying in front of the cleanup area. I just feel like making these two first classes basic, so bear with me for this too, and wait for the third one. Everybody will get some new compositing techniques in this course. We are working with cinema camera material here, so it is essential for you to turn on the 32-bit mode. The After Effects should always be in 32-bit mode if you are a compositor. The next thing you want to do is to drag this footage onto new composition button. Here it is. And it will create the composition with the same settings as your footage is, with the same resolution and the frame rate you see. In the project panel, it has created. In project panel, you can also see different parameters of the stuff that is in there. So I've just offset the footage so I can go transform, feed to comp. This will bring it back, or I can just hit Ctrl Z. So our task will be to replace the green screen with the 3D rendered matte painting. Restore the smoke in front of the green screen, key out this guy, and clean up this edge that has to be replaced with the extension of the asphalt. If you are wondering how you navigate in the composition window, you definitely are rocky. I do it with the middle mouse button. Pretty basic compositing task for computer graphics for film. Let's see how we will handle it inside of After Effects. So right after importing our footage, let's import the actual matte painting. So let's go inside of our project files here, and inside of comp assets folder, the matte painting should be. So for the start, let's import the beauty pass. And if we double click on it in the project panel, it will open the footage panel, in which we can preview the media without affecting anything in the composition, because composition and the layers panel is where you assemble things, where you work, and the footage is kind of for viewing the footage. There is also a layer tab to view the particular layers of the composition tab, to work on them, focusing your attention on them. So I'll finish my user interface introduction, and for those who don't need it, can always skip to the next class. So in the next class, in 14 minutes, we will learn and complete most of our masking and tracking for this shot. So for those who don't know, this is the layer panel. The After Effects is a layer-based compositing software. It works exactly like Photoshop. You throw layers on top of each other and they blend with each other according to the blending mode you choose. And to see the blending modes which I'm talking about, you have to toggle between switches or modes. After Effects thinks that there's not enough space on your screen, but if you are sure that there is enough space, you can always turn everything on here. This will make this toggle button disappear and you will have switches and modes together here. I will turn off the switches in the sake of basicness of user interface for now. So for example, now I'm plussing pixels of the matte painting on top of the source footage, and in every point the RGB equals the sum of two layers, because I've chosen the additive mode. This is why. If I choose the normal mode, it will put the layer according to its alpha on top of another layer. So if we will have some alpha inside of our top layer, for example, we will key out the green screen and we will put it on top of everything that is behind of it, we will see that everything that is behind of it will appear behind. This is how the layers system work. Same way in Photoshop. The core difference between layer compositing system and node-based compositing system is that in layer compositing system you can see the animation better, because you have a huge timeline for each of your layer with the keyframes you put here. Downside is that when you are getting pretty complex in your compositing and you have like a lot of layers buried inside of pre-comps, which are the compositions inside of the compositions, you start to forget where your things are, and this becomes really hard to understand what is happening. So until you do something super complex, the layer-based compositing system should work fine for any compositing task. But if you know me, you know that there are some really crazy After Effects maniacs that work in it because they love it. Yes. So the effects are your tools you are applying to your layers. the same way I've applied key light. The good practice will be to sit for some time and, you know, dive into the groups here. The color correction contains nodes of the color correction to color correct the layers. The blur and sharpen group contains filters to filter the footage. So most of the effects After Effects has are here. So let's delete this matte painting, key light, offset back the footage like that, fit to comp. What else we can do here? Let's talk about effect control panel. You see it usually is in the same place where the project panel is. I suggest you to get 2 monitors if you are working in computer graphics, because this way you can put, you know, your panels to other screen and you will have a lot more space to breathe. Seriously, if you are working like on a laptop, go and steal this monitor from your grandma or ask for some old monitor from your friends. This will make your work so much easier and faster. This can be one of the best things you can do for your career in computer graphics, if you haven't done it yet. Right after subscribing to my Patreon, I mean, of course. So if we put like remove grain effect on the footage to remove the grain from it, the first thing the compositor should do is to remove the grain from the footage. So let's set it to final output. See that it blurs everything heavily because the Red Dragon camera grain is really heavy when the light is low. And you can see that it now appeared in the effect control panel, in which you can see all the properties of the effect in detail. You can stack effects here. For example, if you apply the fast box blur after the degraining, it will consider it applied after the degraining. If you apply it before the degraining, this remove grain will see this kind of footage to remove grain from. So works the same way as here with layers. But in inverted order, the effects that are lower are on top of the effects that are higher. You can also see effects here. The same settings you see there in more detail, you know, you can see here. You can animate them all here. Almost any setting can be animated and controlled with expression. So you don't need expressions right now. This is the user interface introduction. Up here are the tools you can use. So you can choose the hand. Actually, it appears when you are holding your middle mouse button, and I don't know why you need this hand here if you have the middle mouse button. Then you have like a zoom tool, you know, the same thing you do with the middle mouse button. Rotation tool, the shortcut for the selection is V. Remember this, so you usually want the selection tool to be selected, and if you want to rotate something, you hit double V and then you rotate something. You hit V, you get the selection tool selected. And you have camera tool, pan behind tool, this is for anchor point, you know, transformation, and then you have some masks. These are pretty important. G is the shortcut for the mask tool. As you mask layers, they will now have the alpha of the masks you did. To cycle through the channels while your mouse is on the viewport, hold Alt and hit 1, 2, 3, 4 is the alpha channel. RGBA 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. So you see that some effects are applying on top of masks, as we didn't feather the mask and the fast blur applied on top of it. This is because the effects are applied after the masks here. So don't think too much about it. You will get a hang of it as you go. The mask has its properties inside of it. It has its own feathering. You see, I've just turned off the fast blur by clicking on this button here or this button here by turning it off like that. You see this effects switch is turning it off. Masks has feathering. The expansion will expand the mask outside or inside. If you will do the opposite expansion, feathering can't be opposite, but you can feather the masks inside in After Effects using the feathering tool I took from here from the shelf. masks feather tool. You can expand them out inside and outside. In Nuke, you can only feather masks in one direction. In After Effects, you can feather them in both directions. You have the masks modes here. The main modes are add or subtract. Subtract will invert the mask like that, the same thing that this thing will do. A switch. Not always the same thing, but basically you want to use these modes here. So to delete things, you hit delete on the keyboard and you hit V on the keyboard to select back the selection tool. Well, what else you gonna need? The render queue is the render queue you will use at the very end. You will render footage inside of it. By selecting the composition, going to File, Export, Add to the render queue, you will add it to the render queue, and here you can render to different file formats. So to change the file format, you can go to the output module here. We will talk about it more in the end of the course as you will complete the shot. This is basically everything you have to know for now. Anything else you will need, I will talk as I go, as we will key, green screen, clean up the asphalt, restore the smoke. So as a producer of this sci-fi series, I give you full permission to use the shot in your showreel. The link to the project files is first one in the description, as always. Consider sharing this introduction with some compositors who doesn't know After Effects yet. This might help me to get some new subscribers. Thank you so much. My name is Kirill Pleshakov. I'll see you in the next class. Have a great day.